In part 1 of this video, we talked about how the final episode of Breaking Bad showed Walter White achieving his end goals of providing for his family and tying up his loose ends, as well as what these victories cost him. In part 2, we're focusing on the most enigmatic part of the finale, which points to the show's central mystery, the enduring bond between Walt and Jesse Pinkman. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified about all of our new videos. After Walt deduces that Jesse is still alive and cooking,
what's this I hear about blue meth still being out there?
he goes to Jack's intent on killing his former partner. He's out for revenge after Jesse worked with Hank to bring him down.
This is just a heads up to let you know I'm coming for you.
Next time, I'm gonna get you where you really live.
And the fallout resulted in Hank's death. Walt reminds Jack of his promise to kill Jesse Pinkman.
When you promised that you would kill him, and you didn't. Come on. Instead, all right, you partnered with him. You're his partner now. That's what you stop.
He chooses his language carefully here to prod Jack into doing what he wants, insulting Jack's pride by suggesting he'd view Jesse as an equal.
What, you think I'd partner with a rat?
When Jesse enters, Jack's words
Does this look like a partner to you?
take on an extra layer of meaning because, of course, this poor abused young man is what's become of Walt's partner. Walt can't quite meet Jesse's gaze, and as Jack keeps repeating the word partner,
This is my partner. Right, partner? Right, buddy? Hard-working, good partner. 50-50 partner.
the word triggers a burst of feeling in Walt. He jumps onto Jesse ostensibly in a rage, but we can just make out Walt's keys in the foreground of this shot, and when we hear him pop open his trunk to trigger the machine gun that takes out Jack's gang, we understand that Walt's impulse was in fact a last-minute decision to shield his partner from the fire of bullets. This action epitomizes the nature of Walt's and Jesse's relationship. Walt puts the kid through hell, all while expressing nothing but contempt for the former student he once flunked.
Go to Mexico and screw up like I know you will, and wind up in a barrel somewhere. Ugh!
Yet whenever Jesse is threatened, something comes over Walt to protect his partner. On some instinctive level, Walt loves Jesse, inasmuch as he's capable of love in this Heisenberg chapter of his life.
Walt's ruthless. He'll do just about anything to protect his interest. I agree. Except when it comes to you. He cares about you.
Walt's strange, toxic love for Jesse brings out the best and the worst in him, mostly without him even being conscious of how important the boy is to him. In Walt's mind, Jesse is his, and some of the most evil or crazy things he does are driven by the fear of losing control over Jesse.
The way you tell it sounds to me like he's manipulating you to stick around, like he doesn't want to lose you.
When Jane comes between the partners, Walt lets her die from an overdose. When Jesse's about to have a shootout with Gus's dealers, Walt rushes in to kill them, risking his whole arrangement with Gus.
Run.
When Mike starts babysitting Jesse on Gus's orders,
I like to think I see things in people.
Walt is so threatened that his ego flares up.
This whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
And he gives Hank the big hint that Gail Bedecker wasn't Heisenberg.
This genius of yours, maybe he's still out there.
And two, whenever Walt feels out of control, he takes it out on Jesse at his lowest, most powerless point, after he can't stop Jack from killing Hank, and he has to shake Jack's hand.
Hey, man, I gotta know we're square. I'm gonna have to go that other way.
The first thing Walt says is,
Pinkman.
because he can't face blaming himself for this mess, he blames Jesse. It's like he views Jesse as his dog, and whenever he's suffering, his first instinct is to kick that poor dog.
I watched Jane die.
But however much he manipulates, abuses, and dismisses Jesse,
Would you just, for once, stop working me?
on a deep buried level, this relationship has become more important to Walt than even his own family. You might note that he buries his beloved money in the spot where he and Jesse first cooked together.
Yo, I remember this place. The very first place we cooked, like, ever.
Which has a kind of twisted romance to it. And he's right to value Jesse. The youth is actually Walt's secret weapon. He saves Walt time and time again through his loyalty.
You kill Mr. White, you're gonna have to kill me too.
His aptitude, which is constantly overlooked by everyone.
Or what about a magnet?
What magnet? What about it?
And through his goodness.
They used this little kid like some puppet.
After the bullets die down, Walt kills Jack and Jesse kills Todd. And there's something cathartic about these murders, as if both are slaughtering dark mirrors of themselves to be free of these demons. In the final season, eerily unfeeling Todd has served as a kind of alternate evil Jesse. He's another young blonde kid learning to cook, but with a complete lack of regard for morality. Whereas Jesse has to repeatedly implore his partners to, not kill kids.
These assholes of yours, they got an 11-year-old kid doing their killing for them. You're supposed to be some kind of reasonable businessman. This how you do business?
Todd shoots a boy completely unnecessarily on instinct.
I was thinking on my feet. I saw a threat and I took care of it the only way that I could.
A threat? The kid was waving at us.
Whereas Jesse beats himself up about every bad thing that happens, even when it's not his fault, Todd is devoid of emotion or guilt.
Just so you know, this isn't personal.
In Season 5, Walt relying more on Todd instead of Jesse shows how soulless he's becoming. It's easier to use Todd as a sidekick so he no longer has to explain or hide his evil actions.
I don't want to talk about this.
Okay.
It had to be done.
Okay.
Likewise, Jack is a dark mirror of Walt. Todd's uncle is also a paternal figure leading a youth down a bad path. And he's also got a huge ego.
He just insulted you, he insulted me, all of us. Jesus.
But as the leader of an outlaw gang of white supremacists, he's as cartoonishly evil as you can get. So when Walt rejects Jack's offer to get back the rest of his money...
You want your money, right? Huh? You wanna know where it is? You pull that trigger,
We're seeing that Walt has finally turned back at least a little from the edge. Earlier this season, he was risking his partner's lives for just a little more methylamine.
Walter, we've got a good Samaritan on the scene. You pull your guys off that train right now.
We're not done yet.
Dismissing $5 million as insignificant.
$5 million isn't nothing.
And scoffing that $10 million was not enough for his family.
My money goes to my children, not just this barrel. All of it!
But this endgame Walt has regained some of his senses and is no longer blinded by an insatiable greed for more. Finally, only the two partners remain. Walt tells Jesse to shoot him.
You want this?
But Jesse senses he's being manipulated yet again.
Say you want this!
I want this.
He spots that Walt took a bullet. And then he refuses.
Then do it yourself.
Making good on his vow never again to do what Walt wants him to do.
No, I'm not doing what you want anymore.
Outside, Walt and Jesse stare at one another. What exactly is exchanged in this final glance? Jesse's first look appears to be asking if Walt is really going to let him go. Jesse has justified him, and Walt has never before accepted this.
I'm done.
No, you're not. You're not done. You're not leaving. Because if you leave, you get nothing. Do you understand me? Nothing!
But Walt nods, giving his permission, his assurance that this really is the end. And maybe, too, we're spying a glimmer of regret or apology from Walt. Insofar as Walt is capable of these things, he's not fully.
I forgive you.
Jesse's return look, his eyes full of tears, appears to thank Walt for finally letting this hell be over, and perhaps for giving him what he's wanted all along: respect. We've seen repeatedly how Jesse longs for Walt's approval.
You don't give a shit about me. You said I was no good. I'm nothing. Why would you want me, huh?
Despite all the terrible things Walt does, all he really has to do to get Jesse back on his side is to say,
Your meth is good, Jesse.
as good as mine.
Walt's final act of saving Jesse acknowledges how much he has really needed Jesse all along. Jesse drives away like a madman, laughing and crying with exhilaration as he finally escapes. Not just Jack's evil gang, but also, more fundamentally, Mr. White.
Mr. White, he's the devil.
We may forget, but in the pilot...
You want to cook crystal meth? You and me.
That's right.
Jesse actually never had a choice about becoming Walt's partner.
Either that, or I turn you in.
And Walt has never allowed Jesse to escape his pull since.
Actually, Mr. White, I'm out too.
You're what?
However many times Jesse has tried to extract himself.
Ever since I met you, everything I have ever cared about is gone. Ever since I hooked up with the great Heisenberg.
At last, poor Jesse is free. Gilligan has said that all of the writers loved Jesse and couldn't bear for him to die. Quote, "This poor kid, based on a couple of really bad decisions he made early on, has been paying through the nose spiritually and physically and mentally and emotionally. It would have been such a bummer for us, as the first fans of the show, for Jesse to have to pay with his life ultimately." After Jesse leaves, Walt examines his bullet wound. He's about to die, just as he was told in the first episode that he would.
Best case scenario with chemo, I'll live maybe another couple of years.
The irony is, it's not the cancer that kills him. It's the bullet he took to give Jesse this second act. And this bullet embodies Walt's partial redemption. Saving Jesse is the one really good thing he does before he departs. Ultimately, the question of what happens to Jesse after this moment will likely be answered in the upcoming Breaking Bad movie. Gilligan has said, despite the odds against Jesse, he likes to believe the kid got to make a fresh start. Quote, "The romantic in me wants to believe he gets away with it and moves to Alaska and has a peaceful life communing with nature."
50-50. Yes, 50-50.
Okay. Partners.
Gilligan has described Breaking Bad as a modern Western, and in the episode Felina, we can really feel the Western genre's influence. We hear sentences like,
I gave it to the two best hitmen west of the Mississippi.
The title comes from the song El Paso, which we hear near the start.
Riding alone in the dark.
In the lyrics, Felina, spelled a little differently, is an irresistible temptress, just as Walt's Baby Blue is a wicked love he can't resist.
Special love I have for you. My baby blue.
The scene of Walt and Jesse standing outside Jack's also visually evokes a Western showdown. In fact, Gilligan has confirmed that the Breaking Bad ending is an homage to the John Ford classic, The Searchers. John Wayne's character spends the movie searching for his niece, played by Natalie Wood, who's been taken and raised by Native Americans. To quote Gilligan's explanation, throughout the whole movie, John Wayne says, "I need to put her out of her misery. As soon as I find her, I'm going to kill her." And then at the end of the movie, on impulse, you think he's riding toward her to shoot her.
We go charging in, they'll kill her, and you know it.
That's what I'm counting on.
I know you are.
And instead, he sweeps her off her feet and he carries her away and he says,
Let's go home, Debbie.
As we saw, Walt has the same involuntary instinctual bond for Jesse. As much as he says he wants to kill him, he just can't let anything happen to the boy. The Western ethos of the show is reflected not just in its desert vistas or its cowboys and lawmen plots, but even more fundamentally in the show's feeling of living large, of escaping restrictive society to enter a Wild West.
What's the point of being an outlaw when you got responsibilities?
When Walt admits to Skyler that he did all this for himself,
I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it.
he finishes with the key words.
I was alive.
And here we arrive at the deepest reason Walt did what he did. In the face of a death sentence, he decided it was about time to start living. When the show aired, there was a lot of debate over how much viewers should be rooting for Walt. Gilligan even expressed his surprise that viewers did continue to side with Walt for so long.
I lost sympathy for this guy along the way. He's a sociopath.
But what most of us can relate to on some level is this journey of a man who feels he's been letting life pass him by, discovering what it means to feel alive. The showrunner ultimately connects our interest in Walter White to our American love of outsiders.
I think what interests us typically as human beings is people who have the will or the courage to live outside of society's strictures.
A lot of viewers can identify with Walt's starting state of powerlessness and fearfulness.
I have spent my whole life scared, frightened of things that could happen, might not happen.
He's a guy who lived for 50 years unnoticed, a guy you wouldn't notice walking down the street if he passed you, and he lived, and a lot of his decisions were based on fear.
I came to realize it's that fear that's the worst of it. That's the real enemy.
And they might feel a vicarious pleasure in watching him break free of those shackles and take control of his life.
When we're, feeling powerless or feeling unnoticed or whatever, there's something about living large that intrigues us.
In fact, what really makes Walt feel alive on the deepest level is being in control.
Never give up control. Live life on your own terms.
At the start of the series, he didn't have control over anything in his life.
Hey, Mr. White. Make those tires shine, huh?
Oh my God.
And as he starts to experience real power, Walt realizes that control is his drug of choice.
Every life comes with a death sentence. But until then, who's in charge? Me. That's how I live my life.
So, like a Western hero, Walt takes charge, casts aside society's expectations, and lives by his own rules. Yet the classic Western hero is also associated with an innate code of honor. He's a model of individual responsibility.
They're making me run. I've never run from anybody before.
But the tragedy of Walt's character is that he doesn't take responsibility.
But he is a guy, and this is a fatal flaw on his part, he's a guy who doesn't take responsibility for his actions.
After everything he's done, Walt is still blaming circumstance, holding on to his old spite, coming up with any reason he can to avoid holding himself accountable.
Not really. I blame the government.
You either run from things or you face them, Mr. White.
Gilligan has said that he and Bryan Cranston agreed Walt experienced some degree of regret for his actions.
I do personally, for one man's opinion, I think he had regrets. Every now and then the clouds would part a little bit. He'd get a little beam of light, as it were, like, ooh, this really is my fault, all of this.
Yet ultimately, he doesn't fully let himself feel or give in to this self-awareness. By the end, even if he starts to let the truth back in, he's lost the ability to be honest with himself.
Every now and then there's those moments of regret, but I regret that the world really did a number on me, versus I regret that I really screwed up.
Walt's toxic environment does feel to blame for a lot. His bitter resentment towards his society is justified. The world has screwed him over. But at the same time, spite continues to drive Walt even long after he can plausibly claim to be a victim. After he's become the one who knocks. Even Heisenberg, the devil himself.
He is smarter than you. He is luckier than you.
So even when the world is a terribly unfair, cruel, or ugly place, Breaking Bad is pointing out the tragedy of continuing to blame external circumstances for our personal choices. At a certain point, we must take responsibility for what we've done and for who we are.
So no matter what I do, hooray for me because I'm a great guy. It's all good. No matter how many dogs I kill, I just do an inventory and accept.
Fans noticed that the spelling of Felina is not only an anagram for finale, it strings together the symbols for the elements iron, which is in blood, lithium, which is in meth, and sodium, which is in tears. So you can also read the title as Blood, Meth, and Tears. The finale certainly delivers all three. But most poignantly, as Walt departs this world, it leaves us reflecting on why Walt did what he did and what it cost him on a spiritual level. As he meets his end in the meth lab, Walt spies his distorted reflection in the metal, the visualization of his inner Heisenberg, reminding us of the earlier shot of Walt punching his reflection, fighting with himself. Here, Walt calmly looks at this distorted reflection again with acceptance. His Mr. Hyde won, and as he moves his hand away, he leaves behind a trail of blood.
I accept who I am.
And who are you?
I'm the bad guy.
Hi guys, Susanna and Deborah here. If you like what we do and you want to help us grow, one of the best things you can do is support us on Patreon.
We make special polls for our patrons where you can vote for a video you want us to make.
And right now we're giving away 3 free months of Mubi, a really fantastic movie streaming service.
Love Mubi.
We're such fans.
Awesome.
And we're giving that away to a limited number of patrons, so be one of the first to go check it out.
The link is right here.
Right here.